Hello, everyone. Welcome to Love Powered Life. My guest today is beautiful Birch, a dear friend of mine, a longtime friend who has been in my life through all past versions of me. Same for you, right? I've seen your evolution, and I'm so excited for everyone who's going to tune in into this conversation to experience the lightfulness and the beautiful light that you shine on us. And I'll let you introduce yourself and share with us what's important for people to know about you.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's funny because we did a quick meditation right before we hit record, and when you said to feel like the heart and the energy between us, my memory took me right back to when we were like doing our makeup together in the mirror at the W as cocktail waitresses. And I was like, we've come a long way. And so
I
I
don't
think
remember that.
in like the locker room,
Good old times.
good old times, yeah. And so I think in terms of introducing myself, there's definitely been an evolution as you mentioned. I'm from Washington, D.C., and I'm a storyteller. That's how I describe myself first and foremost. The tool of choice right now is a camera. So I'm a photographer. And what that has really become synonymous with for me is a seeker of light. I'm someone who, outside of the tools of my craft, I'm someone who seeks beauty and relatable moments and the little moments in every day that are beautiful and easy to pass by. But I love to use photography as a way to capture light and share that with others. The journey from where I am now, it's really evolved. When I met you, I was studying business in college and working as a cocktail waitress, and really I was definitely following the script. I was doing what I thought I should be doing in terms of study something, get the job, climb the ladder, and I started down that path. I worked in corporate finance and operations for 9 years, and then it was in 2016 that I found photography and started to pull on threads in my heart of what more I could want out of this life, and finding things that lit me up in a different way. And that was where, yeah, I picked up a camera, and very quickly I knew, I was like, this is something I want to pursue. And it was something that I intentionally took steps to evolve into my career over a few years. And here we are. I'm almost 5 years in as full-time photographer, storyteller, um, and someone who's just able to, I think, through that craft, like appreciate the day to day through a completely different light.
It's beautiful. Yeah, and you have a beautiful vision for this world and a beautiful vision for life with the images that you capture. You bring such a zest and such a, I want to say excitement. When I think of you, it's excitement. It's the colors, the textures, the shadows, and there is so much beauty in your photography.
Thank you.
Something you said that stood out, and I want to follow up on when you said that you wanted to explore what else is out there for you, the way you picked up a camera. What inspired you? What drew you in to explore other scripts?
Yeah, a good question. I think that it was pretty clear to me. I remember sitting at my desk, my office in Georgetown, and I was like 26 or so at the time. And I remember thinking, like, I had just gotten a promotion. I was making the money. I had the friends. I had the relationship. I had, like, on paper, my life was what I wanted it to be. But there was definitely a feeling of emptiness and a craving for a bigger, fuller life, and for the day to day to feel exciting and to feel, I think, like the word that comes to mind is impact. Because I was working in a job where it was all about sales and numbers. And it really, I would go home at night and it was like an empty feeling. And so I started to just explore. Like, I remember I hit like an exploratory phase of focusing on myself. And I remember I really like isolated for a little bit. and started to try all different types of hobbies. Like I was doing like the aerial yoga where you're like hanging from the ceiling. I was trying like different recipes. I was exploring going to the farmer's market. I was really focused on my health. And I remember thinking that in that desk job that I had, I remember thinking I wasn't creative, and I never identified as a creative person. And then when I was really spending more days by myself, I picked up a camera. It was actually my mom's camera, because she studied photography in art school, and I was something that was just always around. And it was through that time with myself that I really let myself wander, and I would go for long walks by myself. And I remember I started to take the camera with me and realized that I was losing track of time. And that was one of the first indicators to me of when, I think back then I didn't know it, but looking back, I was in a flow state. And it was in entering that flow state that I started to crave it more. Like I would be at my desk and realize like, oh, I'm just not in like that altered state, and wanting to have more of my days be taken up with like that feeling. And so I would make time before work, after work, and I really would just started to crave that feeling of being in flow.
I love that. I love the exploration and that time that you spent by yourself and gave yourself that space to explore and to, tap into that feeling of being with yourself, of being who you are, just as with a camera on long walks. I love long walks, and Roosevelt Island is my place. I love that. How did you end up making a big shift from
From
a
you mean
corporate,
career wise?
yeah, from a corporate career to going to a photographer full time, a thriving photographer too?
Thank you. It's really funny to look back, because I always say you can only connect the dots looking back. At the time, I didn't realize what a big life switch I was making. It was something that I just naturally, as I started to share my work a little bit more on Instagram, clients were coming to me naturally, and it was very organic. Like it was something that I would just say yes to things here and there as I had time, and just like the bandwidth to pour into photography as something that was more of a business for me. And I was really flirting with that line between like a hobby versus letting it become a business. And then when I realized, I was like, oh, wait, I have a talent here. And I think there's something to realizing like that belief in yourself, and like belief in your own ability and talents, and what sets you apart from other people. 2016, I got my first camera. And then in 2018, I remember it was about 2 years in, I went to my boss, and I'm the type that like, I need to know that like the numbers will work. I need to have that sense of like the hierarchy of needs has a strong foundation in order for me to make a big life change like that. Because again, I was following what I thought I should do. I was like following that script. And so it felt like a radical change for me to leave all that I knew, and especially the career that I had built over 9 years, and something that tied directly to my degree, like what I had studied. I didn't have any formal training in photography. I did like a 1 hour lesson, and then the rest was through friendships and the photography community in DC, like really learning and enjoying that process of learning. And I think now I understand like the new neural pathways that were being created in that learning curve. That in 2018, I went to my boss and I said, okay, I am realizing that I have something here. I have a potential to start a business with something that I'm very passionate about and that comes naturally to me, but I need the financial security. I realized that I need to have a foot in both for a little bit. So thankfully, I'm so grateful for like that company and boss that I had, because he's like, I'll take as much time of yours as I can get. And I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to work 4 10-hour days, Monday through Thursday, and then I'm going to dedicate Friday, Saturday, Sunday to photography clients. And that worked for about 6 months. And then I remember after 6 months, I was like, I was doing really well. And the work was coming easy in terms of photography clients. It was coming easily to me. So I went back to my boss and I said, what if I were to consult for you rather than working full time, and I'll have a photography business and then I'll consult on the side. And I think this was knowing myself. I knew that I needed to have that sense of security, and I knew that I was not the type to just like put in my 2 weeks and go for it. And what that did, that self-awareness, I think knowing what my needs were and what was going to make me feel safe in the process is what allowed me to slowly build something new, keeping my like nervous system in a space of creation and being able to be in a flow state and still achieve that while not feeling like the pressure of
Mhm.
like, hey, my rent depends on this yet. Knowing that I was working towards that. And then that was December 2019. So I went into 2020 just having left my full-time job, knowing that I was going to consult for them for a little bit, and then really feeling so energized come January 1 to make something out of this business. And I was like, this is going to be the year. This will be when I break out and get to really enjoy photography full time and be a creative entrepreneur. And the pandemic hits. There's something comforting, I think, about feeling like everything in the world was uncertain at the same time that personally things felt uncertain, and there was other things in my life that were shifting at the same time. That it was definitely one of those moments of like riding the roller coaster and putting your hands in the air and just knowing that you're going to be okay and trying to like enjoy the ride. But it ended up working out in my favor, where I was able to consult for the business that I was working for before. And then really from like July, August 2020 on, I've been booked. And the how, I think so much of it has been my relationships, the people that I know, and the energy that I have brought to my business, and true desire to help people and support people and take pictures that are going to help fuel their passions. And just like I've worked with you before on photo shoots. And I think that knowing my why, like knowing which way my compass was pointing and why I'm going in that direction, really helped me on the days that felt hard and confusing, and you have those moments of like, wait, what am I doing again? Like, why did I leave the comfort of what I had before? And because it gets uncomfortable. That is a fact of the journey to where I am now, and like any kind of growth that someone embarks on. And so, yeah, in those moments of discomfort, I was really able to root down in my why. And I'm really grateful that it worked out, and that it led me to really having a thriving business.
Yeah. And so what is your why? What inspires you to, besides, helping others fuel their passion and capture their product, their moments, what is your personal why?
Why, it's funny when I think about this, part of what I go back to is like what lights me up in conversation. Because I think my why has evolved as I have, and it is something that right now I'm realizing that so much of my why is rooted in helping other people believe in themselves, and knowing that because I've been through this, the journey of going from a life that felt empty to something that feels so rich and full and exciting every day, you can't help but want that for other people once you experience that. And so my why is very much rooted in a desire to help people kind of like feel through what's on their heart in terms of their dreams, and talking that through with them and helping to propel them towards it through living authentically as myself and just leading by example, and letting myself like believing that I really can be a light of inspiration for other people who desire something more out of their days. And right now, like I said, the tool is the camera, and I'm able to really help. I work mostly with small businesses and restaurants and in the hospitality space, and being in that like creative industry, it really helps you connect with so many people who are in the pursuit of their purpose. And that is what lights me up. That's my why, is to really spend my days pouring into others in a way that helps propel them down their path even further.
That's a very noble why,
Mm.
and very much in tune with who you are.
Yeah, thank
Because
you.
you are a light. You are very inspiring to, I know, to your community, to me, and to your friends as well. It's beautiful that you get to share that with the world. And
Thank you.
it's beautiful that you made that journey and made that leap. And I totally relate with you about how you said on paper everything looked so good, and then your life was really empty inside. I know, I've been there
Mm-hmm.
few times now.
Yeah, I agree. Same. It ebbs and flows. Yeah.
It ebbs and flows, but the more I surrender, the more I learn about myself, the more I discover who I truly am and what inspires me and lights me up. And the more I exercise that as a practice of commitment to myself, the easier it gets to navigate those ebbs and flows in life, and then in my personal evolution of, changing careers like I have in the last I don't know how many years. It gets easy, and it doesn't. To me, it became one of those things. Last year, it's been a year since I closed down Rawfully Delish.
Miss those cakes, though. I will say, I miss the desserts.
I know, and a lot of people still message me, and they do too. And it was a wonderful thing while it lasted, but I don't feel emotional attachment to it. And I haven't felt an emotional attachment to it since I made a decision, and the decision just came so easily. Like there was no doubt in my heart, no doubt in my mind that's just not me anymore.
That's
And
been one of my bigger lessons this year, has definitely been like what is aligned. It can feel easeful. Like let it be an era of ease. And that's something it's something I have to come back to daily, because if you follow your curiosity and you stay true to that why, it's not always going to feel easy, but it can be easeful, if that makes sense.
totally, there is a big difference between, you mentioned flow, and when you were doing photography, how you connected, you felt. That's just our natural state.
Mm-hmm.
But because of those scripts that we are conditioned to follow or programmed to follow, we think that, well, I need to figure it out. And I need to follow these steps for me to get where I'm going. And if I just achieve this goal, and if I just achieve that, or if I just get there, in the process, we can get lost
Absolutely.
and get
Yeah,
sidetracked by trying to do more, 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 instead of letting life flow through us and figure itself out.
absolutely. That is, and it reminds me, I think something that's been key in my journey, and much more so recently, has been the practice of detachment and detaching from outcomes. Because if you had told me 10 years ago that I would be a professional photographer, I would have like squinted and just been like, what? It's something that life looks very different right now than I ever thought it would. Like, I just turned 35 last week. I don't have any kids. I am a full time creative with my own business and living alone. If you had asked like 25-year-old me what I thought 35 would look like, the picture would look wildly different than it does today. However, I think that some of the wisdom that has come and what life experience has taught me is that detaching from that outcome has actually created a life that is more beautiful and aligned than I ever could have imagined for myself. And once I came to peace with that, there was like this something washed over me in terms of like, you can trust in the universe to align your path in a way that is different than what others might look like and what you may think is in your own highest good. But allow that space for the magic and allow space for like an outcome that's different than what you think is good for you. Once I, just in the past like year or two, I've really harnessed that. I've like been like, okay, maybe this is working out for me in a way that's different and I'm gonna trust it. And there's something really beautiful of just navigating the day to day. Because sometimes you wake up on a Thursday morning and you're like, oh, I have to go to a photo shoot. There's like so much that can run through your mind. But I've really made it a practice to detach from the outcomes of what's next and leaving room for some co-creation and leaving room for my life to take turns. Like I think in no longer using my degree, like as it relates to having a role in like a corporate financial work, there's something liberating about that where I'm like, I can't wait to like in my 40s, I want to like be a yoga teacher. Like I want to be a life coach. Like there's so many evolutions of myself that I know I have yet to meet. And now through the practice of detachment, I'm able to see how in only being 35, there are so many evolutions of my why and my purpose that will manifest. Right now, it just looks like photography, but kind of taking my hands off the wheel and realizing like this can, this journey is going to take many twists and turns and like enjoy that part of the ride. I know that like sounds cliche.
Not
If
to
I'm not,
me.
yeah, no, if
To
I
me, it
was like
doesn't
too,
sound cliche.
well, because I think early in my career, I found myself, my ego was tying itself to wanting to achieve certain benchmarks of success, even in photography, and realizing like, wait, no, maybe I'm attaching or like I'm aspiring to the wrong things. And so I've really been able to like narrow my focus to like right where my feet are. And yes, of course, have things you want to work towards and build the life that you desire and know that you are worthy of that. However, if you're able to leave room and be inspired by infinite possibilities, then that's where life just, it has a different magic to it. It has a different sparkle right now.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot. Myself have been a continuous journey now of living in the unknown, where our mind only perceives what 1%, less than 1% of reality. And then, so how can I, with my limited mind, know what's good for me? How can I know what's the highest expression of who I am? And so allowing life to surprise me and for things to
Mm,
unfold as they may unfold. I do have things that, of course, I envision for myself, but also they all might be limited too by my perception and by what I know. And just trusting and surrendering the outcome. Yeah, surrendering to the life to unfold as it may, especially with what I'm doing now. In business, previously, it was that old model of building something where, okay, so this is how many cakes I need to sell, how many people I need to serve, this is the revenue I need to make, the sales I need to make, and then eventually, I'll open a cafe, I'll do this and this and this. With the practice I'm doing now with HeartMath and guiding people, it's opposite from that. It's actually from the other way around. Is it's drawing me in. I'm not going anywhere in terms of I don't have a goal, oh, I need to serve 100 people or something, or thousands of people, like a lot of coaches put on their Instagram. Served
mm,
1,000 people, millions of people, that's great. And maybe that is in my cards, but it feels like it is drawing me in versus me going after it. It's a
mm.
different, it's being magnetic to it for it to unfold versus for me to set these goals and work towards them even if they don't feel aligned.
Yeah, absolutely. And okay, so then I'm curious when you say, I know exactly what you mean in terms of it feels magnetic. It's something that you're like, I am showing up authentically every day as myself and doing right by being in integrity with myself. that you're then in a space to be able to attract what is aligned for you. What does your practice look like in terms of kind of that dance with calling something in and like having that magnetic feeling? Like, do you have like a visioning practice? Is it in your meditations, or like, what does that look like for you right now?
Life. That's my practice. I do, of course, meditate, and I have
Yeah.
a visioning practice, and I have rituals that I engage in, and all of those things. But at the end of the day, what you mentioned, it's being here in the present moment. How do I feel now? Do I feel relaxed? Do I feel easeful? Do I feel excited to have this conversation with my friend with no attachment to the outcome of who's going to see it or how many likes or views or whatever I'm going to get? Just being in the moment and tuning into that feeling that I want to experience that lights me up and bring me joy. That is my practice. And so more of it in my daily life creates my magnetism to those things that bring me more of this feeling to come to me. And yes, I more deeply, I guess, engage in a practice of meditation where I tune into those emotions that I want to experience. I tune in the feeling of my future, not how the picture of it looks, but how I feel in it, how I feel in my practice of guiding people, how I feel in my personal life, how I feel in my friendships, how I feel financially supported, and tuning into that feeling and then generating more of that feeling in my day-to-day life in every moment. Like you said, it's Thursday. Well, today is Monday, but you wake
It's
up and you're
Monday,
like,
yeah.
oh, I have to do this and this. Okay, how can I do all of those mundane things with the excitement, with the inspiration, with the love, with the connection and feeling worthy, like you said? How can I do the most mundane tasks in that way? And that's what makes us magnetic to more of that come to us.
Yeah,
Make
that
sense?
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely. It resonates for sure. It's something that I see in myself of, I think sometimes when I get a little too future pacing or like in my head too much about where I'm taking this journey, where my business is going, why, any of that, I will root down in the present moment, because often we put that, like the vision for ourselves, too far ahead, when you can choose that right now. And you can choose, in talking with a lot of friends who aspire to make bigger life changes, there's a feeling of like purpose is something you have to pursue, or like a big, beautiful, like joy and love filled life is something that is maybe out on the horizon after changes have been made. But if you're able to realize that all of that is inside you and it's in the little interactions throughout your day, it's that moment you take to talk to your neighbor. It's the moment that you are a daughter or a friend or a partner, and really knowing that those are all opportunities throughout the day to express your why, to express your purpose and be that person now, which will, I think what I was hearing from you is also like amplifying that magnetism. And it's in those little moments that are opportunities to amplify that and thus attract more of it.
Yeah, because if you set, especially I see that with the people I guide, there is that once we are at the level of knowing that things need to change, we get really caught up on when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen?
Yeah.
I've been doing this so long. I've been manifesting. I don't like that word, but people who work towards goals, they are goal oriented, but a lot of us lose track of the present moment, which is more important for us to create change, because rewiring our brain happens right now. It doesn't happen when we do this or that, or when we are healed, or when this emotion is no longer a charge for us. It happens right now. Making change in every single moment to moment to moment, is what creates that change to occur. And it happens like that. It does happen instantaneously, but there is accumulation of that momentum and of that energy to actually propel that change to happen instantaneously. So yeah, if we are working towards a goal, be that a material or emotional or whatever goal, it's important to have your eye and your heart on that vision, but it's more important to create those changes now in this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it reminds me of some of the best advice I got early on was when you're having those, bringing yourself back to the present and making decisions based on, making decisions that will affect your future and like the whatever you're trying to call in or align with, is to make decisions from a place of like, what would that future version of yourself do? And think through that lens. And what the end result is that you realize like you are that person now. And it's a very simple practice. It's even like for me, it's like, what would she eat today? What would she put in her body to feel good in order to thrive at a photo shoot? What does that person do to take care of their body in terms of movement? What does that person do when it comes to approaching a new project and connecting with a client and operating from that space? And you very quickly drop in and realize like, oh, I have the opportunity to be this person now. It doesn't have to be out on the horizon. And that's one of my favorite practices to bring myself back to not only the present moment, but to realize like I am like the leader of my life. Like I am the person who gets to choose how I show up, and that can be now. It doesn't have to be something that's far off.
Yeah, and that leaves us, there is no pressure when you are living in the present moment, because all that matters is now and how you show up for yourself in that moment now, today, what you eat, how you move, how you interact with others. And that kind of what you mentioned earlier with no attachment to the outcome is that alleviates the pressure from of us, constantly performing.
Yeah.
Like, who are we doing this for?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Right?
I come back to that. Yep.
For ourselves. That's it. And for yourself, there is no judge. Nobody's going to judge you besides you. Something that I mentioned, and I know you were there when that came to me, that thought, integrity is what happens behind the closed doors. And to me, that was such a big aha moment for myself. It's like, who am I performing for? Who am I thriving to be, and how in my life, if it's not for me? And so what I do with me in my alone time and in my day to day, the only person I'm answering to is me.
Yeah, and that's our responsibility, is to tend to that person, like to show up for ourselves and make sure that it's rooted in something that's coming from within. And it's something I have to come back to all the time, because I remember that conversation when it's been described to me as like there's three, I don't want to say versions of us, but there's like what the outside world sees. There's like what we share and what like the closest people to us see in private. And then there's who you are behind closed doors when you're by yourself. And that is like the most intimate relationship that you will ever have. And so really it ties into, I mean, remember even the early days of when I was making big changes in my career. What that journey taught me is like the intimate relationship with yourself is the most important one, but it will also, the journey of making these changes from like having a 9 to 5 and then pursuing a completely different path, is that it's going to force you to really learn yourself. Bring up the questions of like, are you good with you? Are you really loving yourself? Are you showing up for yourself? Are you like the person that you are? And you'll be confronted with all of that. And I feel like this journey over the past like 7 years or so, I have had to really reckon with like, what are my values? Like at my core, take away the camera, take away the friendships, take away the house, everything. Like, who am I and what is of value to me as a person? And that was one of the pieces of changing my career that was the most like unexpected, like in terms of that personal journey of it hasn't just been building a business, it's been building that relationship with myself. Right now, the home within myself feels like the strongest and safest it has ever been because I have every time it's surfaced, I have like met myself there. I have really looked myself in the mirror and been able to ask myself like, am I loving myself? Am I good with who I am? And then to be honest about what comes up and look at it, observe it, know that you are not that, detach from that even, and observe it and know that you can make shifts at any point in order to really come home to yourself. And that's why at the very beginning of the conversation before we hit record, I was saying, I feel like I've just come home to myself. And it's really the first time in my life that I've had this feeling. And I think that is, it really like takes my why and I feel like it just like lights a fire under it because I want that for more people to experience that in this lifetime and to feel what it's like to truly feel at home with yourself.
Yeah. Yes, I feel you. I feel like I'm only scratching the surface in it. I turned 38 and on the day of my birthday, I was like, I feel so good.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there is nothing outside of me or nothing in my life that makes me feel that good. It's me. It's inside of me. And only took me 38 years to get here. But I feel like there is so much more of it. And so much more of this is now my practice is to really anchor this feeling and tap into it and remember it. And especially when things in my mind, in my life, circumstances, whatever, can point to otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Remembering that, no, it's in me. This feeling is right here. The feeling of safety, of wholeness, of love, and remembering that as I move through my life. That then, so that my life is not conditional in terms of what's out there, who's out there to make me feel safe or make me feel good, but
Mm-hmm.
coming back to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually one of the pieces of my practice that you reminded me of is that in because I think it took me years to actually be able to say that truthfully, that I feel at home with myself. I think there were times where I was like, yeah, I feel at home with myself, but it was like, do you really? Like there's still that little echo inside me that was like, yes, yes, and like there's more work to be done.
There is
And
always
there
more work
always
to be done.
Yeah, there always will be. But I think that what you're reminding me of in terms of the practice is that I started doing affirmations in the mirror like probably 2 years ago or so, and it's really been beautiful to see how my mindfulness practice and like the practice of coming home to myself on a day-to-day basis has evolved as I've been watering my business and just a new life path. But saying affirmations in the mirror of like, I love myself unconditionally, moments like that have been like, that's been one of the biggest game changers for me. Because going back to what I was saying earlier about like actually believing in the highest path for your life is, I think that's one of the hardest parts because I think that you have to obviously have the foundation of knowing you're worthy of it, which is its own work in itself. But it's one thing to have a vision, it's one thing to have goals and to have an inkling of like, oh, this is something that excites me, like I want to pursue the path of photography. But it's another to have like an unwavering belief in yourself that that is something you can call in. And I think through the affirmations, I've really been able to breathe life into that day to day belief because it's a practice. And the more that I've been able to figure out how to within myself, like draw water from that well of belief, the more I've just seen the external things in my life multiply and become like we were talking about earlier, like beyond what I could have ever imagined for myself, but really anchoring down in that relationship with self through affirmations, through my meditation practice. That it's like my daily check-in with myself. And it's when you step up to the mirror that you can really see, like, how are we doing today? Like, what do I need? Like, hey, how is my relationship with myself? And it's so fascinating to me to observe on the day-to-day how that can shift so quickly.
Yeah.
With both internal and external factors.
Yeah, I love the affirmations. I have had quite a evolution with them through many years now. And the ones that I'm more aligned with is just I am.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And recently I've done mirror work before in the beginning of my journey. And I've recently started doing this thing, which I love, when you look not at yourself in the mirror, but in yourself, inside of who you are, and just say, I am, and allow that to resonate within you.
I'm curious what comes up for you. Like, is it
Depends on the day.
feeling? I'm sure,
Depends
yeah.
on the day and on where I am in the moment, because I mean, it's a journey. It's an evolving journey. And some days, of course, I feel like, hell yeah, I am. And some days I'm like, am I? Yeah, but for me, different things come up, regardless of what comes up, staying with it and giving that room. Okay, yeah, today I'm a little doubtful. So how can I give more of that belief in me to myself? What do I need to do? How do I need to feel? And some days I'm like, I am, and there is nothing to add. I just am. There is so much
It flows.
beauty. Yeah, so much beauty and so much comfort, but also conviction in that. When you mentioned, believing that you are worthy of it. And so there is no need to add anything else after I am, because I am encompasses all of it.
Okay, I want to try that. I haven't put that into practice, but I do know the feeling of like the days where it's easy and it just, your chest is out a little bit more and you're like, yes, I am. And then there's days where when you said, am I? Like, oh yeah, there's definitely the days that question it all, but then it's coming back to, okay, what do I need today? Like, and it then opens that opportunity to meet your own needs, which just again builds that intimate relationship with yourself and an understanding for who you are today and what you need today.
Yeah. So that brings me to a question that I have asked others before on the podcast, and I want to ask you. Where is the life stretching you right now?
Where is it stretching me?
Yeah.
Okay, I know. When like someone asks a question and like the first thing that pops in mind, you're like, oh gosh, we have to talk about that now. Like the intuitive voice is like, I feel like I'm being stretched into a season where the phrase turning pain into purpose comes to mind. I can feel how I'm being stretched in the role that I play as a storyteller, to be vulnerable and share my story from the past couple of years. And it's the story underneath the story for me. Everybody on the outside looking in, I think, sees the clear shift that I made from working in one job, switching careers, finding a more fulfilling path, and really blossoming into a new version of myself. Underneath that, as as my close friend, that I really struggled with health issues over the past couple of years, and an autoimmune disorder with PCOS, and learning how to honor my body and to listen to my body and to love myself. And through those signals that your body is always sending to you. And this comes to mind when you ask, like, where is the light stretching me? Because it's been on my heart the past couple months to tell that story. And it's something I'm very passionate about, in terms of the journey that I was taken on to not only heal my PCOS naturally, which I did, and I'm so proud that I can say that I did that, but the journey of healing my gut, balancing my hormones, feeling comfortable in my own skin for the first time. And I know you and I have talked about this a lot in terms of how we nourish ourselves and the journey that we've had in our bodies in this lifetime, and how that has been hard. And especially as a woman, like the cyclical nature of who we are. And really, I think for the first time right now, I'm realizing how to harness that as like a superpower. But it's on my heart to tell the story because I feel like there are a lot of people that could benefit from what I went through. It feels, like right in your throat when you talk about something, and it's like the discomfort of like, you're moving in the right direction because you are literally being stretched in the moment as you talk about it. Know that I'm feeling that. But it's where I'm being stretched, I think, creatively through this is writing. I just started writing a Substack that I'm going to launch this fall. And it's something that I think not only it's on my heart, but it's something that I don't know where it's going to take me, but I know that it's something I need to step into and trust in that void of the unknown. Because every time I sit down to write, it's like, it's so clearly what I want to be doing right now in terms of expression, and like creative expression. And it takes nothing away from photography. I'm still very much in love with photography. However, I think when you go through something really painful, it was easily one of the hardest things I've ever experienced over like a 5-year journey of not feeling at home in my own skin and feeling like I was at war with my body and having days where I hated my body and being so confused by how did I let myself get an autoimmune disorder, and what did I do to cause this? That when I sit down to write, it's so healing. And it's something that I do feel like I'm being stretched in the sense of shining a light on something that was really dark for me. But knowing that that light is actually going to be a little lantern that will help guide other people who are like feeling around in the dark right now for a light switch. And so I've decided I'm going to show up imperfectly. I'm going to do my best to write what's on my heart and use it as something that, again, doesn't have an outcome attached to it, but I have like those same rumblings that I had when I started photography, that it's something big, and it's something that big in terms of gravity, like the gravity that I feel in my heart when I think about it, and just trusting that it's going to lead me to something that is meant for me. And in the meantime, I get to enjoy the process of like discovering my own creative expression and my voice in a new way. So I'm feeling very much like it's been like a harvest season for me as it relates to like photography, and feeling really confident in who I am as an artist, which is a beautiful season, a beautiful thing to feel after many seasons of uncertainty. But also then embarking on like a new journey of creative expression. I feel like a freshman. It's like gonna be September in 2 weeks. I feel like I'm like going back
English
to school and
101.
kind of yes, totally. Totally. But there's something really beautiful about the learning process. And I think I've really come to appreciate that this year in terms of like always wanting to be learning something as a 35-year-old woman, like and having things that genuinely excite me and that I'm excited to read about or research or connect with other people in that space. So yeah, I'm feeling very much stretched by that.
So beautiful. I celebrate you for taking that step and beginning to loop around that whole healing for yourself. Regardless of where this writing will take you, it will be healing for you to put it down and express it. And then, of course, once you share it with others, I know that will be a light for them too. And there is a lot of just power and in being able to express what's the most sacred and the most vulnerable for you. So I'm excited to read your Substack, and I'm excited to see where it takes you. Wherever it does, I know it will be beautiful because that's who
Thank you.
you are.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you've always been a steady cheerleader for me. So I truly appreciate that and how you have seen me through all the seasons, quite literally.
Yeah, I mean, same with you. We went from working in a hospitality, doing our makeup in the bathroom. Is that what you said? I can't remember. To wearing so many different hats. And the one underlying current in all of those expressions of who we are was still our essence, no matter what we did, whether you were in a corporate or I was making cakes or we were working in a restaurant. It's not about what we were doing, really, right? It's about who we were. And I believe that why we stayed in touch and why our path continue crossing is because of the innate essence of who we are resonates and shines through all of those expressions. Because obviously back in 2009 when we worked at the restaurant, we didn't have these conversations about life and about divine and about God and about expressing ourselves. No, but we were still who we are because that
Yeah,
always
absolutely.
shines through no matter what we do.
Absolutely. That's beautifully said. And that is very felt too, like the resonance between us. And I think there's something where, um, yeah, there's an energy signature there through our essence that has always been shared and appreciated and seen between the two of us. And so it has been, I think it's been really beautiful over the seasons to see how it has evolved for us. And now to see where our paths are intersecting again. Very different external circumstances, but in a beautiful way.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful to see other people walking their own path. Like you said, you have that desire to show others that, there is more to life. And it's so beautiful to see your friends finding their own light, finding the comfort in their bodies again, healing, evolving, changing. I mean, we are made to do it alone. Although we do all the work alone with ourselves, we still do it in a community. And it's good to have those people in your circle, in your surrounding who remind you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you very much do that for me. And I love holding space for people in that way. Whether it's casually, I'll find myself like at a coffee shop and like 5 minutes in, the barista's talking to me about their dreams. I'm like, yes, tell me more, honey. Like, I want to know. I love being able to witness others on their path. And if I can shine a little light or give a little bit of encouragement or reminder of that belief in ourselves, like, then that's the gift, really. That's what I truly appreciate in the day to day.
I love that. So, what would be advice, a piece of your heart, a wisdom that you want to share with others who are going to watch
I
it?
think the first thing that comes to mind is to slow down. It's we talked about it earlier in terms of like the when and like where is it, and I think on this path or in the midst of change, you can want to push fast forward and be in that space of whatever your future vision is for yourself. One of the greatest gifts in my practice that I've learned and really, like, I think gone against what mainstream has taught us in terms of slowing down and trusting that we're on divine time. And knowing that, I think if you're able to slow down and be present with right where you are, that's the space where you can call in that belief in yourself, the gratitude, and the feeling into that future version of yourself and what you're trying to align with. And it's really been in the practice of slowing down that I've been able to come home and realize, like, oh, this is the pace at which life feels good for me and my journey feels good for me. And I know that's going to look different for everybody else, but a true appreciation for the pace of the journey.
Yeah, I love that. There is a lot of wisdom in receiving what life is giving you right now, whatever that
Yes.
looks like, whatever that feels like, especially whether we see it, notice it or not, life is changing rapidly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I love my journaling practice, is because they're often I'll look back on my journals from 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, and I'm able to see like what I'm living right now is what I was calling in then. And giving myself like that moment of pausing and appreciating, like, oh, I just, I did a photo shoot with this client and I was printed in Washingtonian, and I have been able to travel to different countries this year. And like, it really fosters like appreciation when you're able to slow down and take that moment to realize like, I am actually the future version of myself that I was calling in at that time.
Yeah.
And it just is a beautiful way of being able to get perspective on your own life.
Yeah. And to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Oh yeah, add that to the advice bucket for sure, because there are times when I'm off to you have to remind yourself to ground in the present, because you'll be off to the next. And sometimes things happen so quickly. I think that's the other part of slowing down, is that it's taught me that shifts can happen so quickly. And within a day, you can meet someone that will change your life. And that has happened to me many times on this path. And I often have to push pause just to be like, wait, let's like process what happened this week, all the beautiful things that have come in, and really making a practice out of that.
Yeah. That's one thing that I intend, or I am doing now. I do have a gratitude list and a gratitude practice, and I stay in the feeling of gratitude for everything, but actually writing down my miracles, and they're like
Ooh.
small little things. Like I found a feather today when I was on my morning walk, like, oh, I love feathers, that's a miracle for me. Or I saw a beautiful butterfly or a rainbow. Or I was at the beach last week and it rained the whole week. But then one night, the sky got clear for like an hour. And in that hour, I saw so many beautiful shooting stars. Like, that's a miracle, because then an hour later, it got gloomy again and cloudy. So
Really?
actually, it reminded me of those little small moments. In the beginning, you said, the beauty of life. And bringing that feeling of wonder and awe into my everyday life and remembering it. That's something that I'm doing now.
Call it a list of miracles too, because it encompasses, I know just in knowing you that it's going to encompass everything big and small for sure.
Yeah. I mean, for me, miracle is seeing another person heal themselves, like you mentioned. That's a miracle. But also seeing a sunshine through the clouds on a gloomy day, that's a miracle too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know there were times in my life when I didn't see it, when
Oh,
I
that's
chose
so
not
true.
to see it.
Yeah.
So, oh God, I got emotional for a second there. Yeah. So remembering like how far we've come, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and having those to refer back to on the days when, yeah, it's a little harder to see the sunshine sometimes.
Yeah. So beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, we are on an hour. Anything else you want to close out with? Anything that's important for you to share to bring us back?
I think I just would want to give some gratitude to you for, one, being such a light yourself and inspiring by example. And I see you really stepping into the void and paving a new path for yourself. And I want you to know that, like, as a close friend and peer of yours, like, I draw inspiration from that. You're a beautiful mirror in that way. And so I just want to give gratitude for having me and creating this space to exchange the way we do.
Thank you so much. I fully receive your compliments. And same for you, sister. You are an inspiration, and your light and your vision for the world and the stories you're telling with your pictures and now with your writing. And just by being who you are, you bring so much light into our world. And as I'm saying that, there is like a light on your face. Is that a sun or something? Like
the cloud did just shift, yes.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
have a skylight.
Yes. So thank you for being you and for continuing being you and for this journey that you are on discovering more of who you are. I love it. Thank you for sharing
Yes.
it with us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And your words are very much received as well. Thank you.